Today, everybody, I did not play the Olympiad. Instead, the number 5 of Sweden replaced me in the match against Cuba today. But because there is no recap of my game, I wanted to give you a recap of a crazy game that my mom played in round 2, where she beat a woman international master in 9 moves. 9. So everybody, I hope you enjoy the recap and hopefully this inspires us all to beat strong players so early on. My mom had the black pieces and she was facing a woman international master from Lebanon. This was round 2 of the Olympiad. So let's go straight into game. E4 was played by white. My mom responded with C5. We have a Sicilian over here right now. Knight C3, Knight C6. Now this is a close Sicilian now that white has gone Knight C3. An open Sicilian would be if white would go for Knight F3 and then go for D4. Now the ideas of the close Sicilian are that white is slowly but surely going to be building up a kingside attack. So even though it may look like white doesn't have as, much activity in the beginning as in the open Sicilian, white can get a lot of it. And it's actually, I think it's pretty scary to face this opening. So G3 was played by white, and here the idea is just to go bishop G2 and fianchetto. Now, by having this bishop on G2, white is stopping black from playing D5 at any point. Typically in the Sicilian, black tries to get in D5 because it's just a fantastic break a lot of times to be able to go E6 and D5 because you get a great center then, as you're basically exchanging the only pawn that white has in the center. So white is stopping black from doing that, and black is going to fianchetto their bishop as well on G7 because in these sort of positions, you could go D6, E6, and bishop E7, but that leaves for, much more passive positions, and sometimes white then has the opportunity to go Knight E2 and then D4 and then break the center anyways and open up the D file, leaving black with a pretty weak D6 square. So actually, now that this has happened, black wants to try to stop white from going D4. So G6, bishop G2, bishop G7. Now both bishops are fianchettoed, and now it's very hard for white to go D4 at any point because black is just defending this square with so many different pieces. D3, D6. This is a move that has to be made to protect this pawn on C5 at one point and also to develop the bishop on C8. So far, all of this is very, very, very normal stuff. Bishop E3. Bishop E3 is not a move that, has to be made. Sometimes white goes for Knight E2 or even Knight H3. I'll tell you the ideas of Knight H3, but basically what white is trying to do is to go F4 very soon after developing the pieces. And sometimes white just tries to develop first all the pieces on the king side so that they can castle and then go F4 and F5 very quickly. So bishop E3 is not always the most common move. You can actually wait with your bishop on C1 for a while because this bishop right now is not really doing much here, even though this is the most logical square for the bishop. So now black went E5, and the idea with this is just to get a square for the knight. The knight does not want to go to F6 because here it's just going to be very clumsy. With the knight on F6, it's blocking the bishop. It doesn't really have any good squares to go to. And also at some point, F4, E5 might be very annoying. So you want to go E5 just to give this square on E7 for the knight. And also, once again, you're reinforcing the D4 square. At some point, you might go Knight D4 and just get a really nice and active knight over here. So now white made a move that is not the most common, but it's become very, very trendy lately. And I know that I typically hate when my opponent does this because it's a very aggressive move. And the move is Knight H3. Now this move looks a little bit funny, but the idea of this move is basically that you're trying to go at some point F4 and maybe even F5, depends a little bit on the position, and you're opening up this diagonal for the queen. So if after F4, F5 black takes here, sometimes you might have queen H5 and knight G5, and that can create a really strong attack. So you're basically just putting the knight over here because of that. Another idea to have the knight over here is also that after F4, you can take back with the knight if pawn takes, and then you get this fantastic square on D5 for both your knights, and you just get a really, really nice position in general. So these are some of the different ideas with Knight H3. So typically here, I mean, black goes for knight e7. This is like very, very, very common. And here white maybe will castle, maybe then we'll see some castles. And here sometimes then white starts to go f4, f5. I mean, white can even go f4 now in this position. This is also like a move that white can do. And then, you know, depending a little bit on what black does, f5 could be an option. And this whole idea that I said of queen h5 can become an option. So in this position, my mom decided that her opponent is not going to be the one attacking this game. No. My mom wanted to be the one attacking, and she was actually not expecting knight h3. And so the move that she did now, she only did because my father told her in the year 1986 that there's a really interesting variation against knight h3 in the closed Sicilian. And she remembered it. I mean, it's year 2022. I mean, it's been pretty much 40 years since then. She remembered that comment and she went for the variation that my dad told her in 1986. Is that not crazy? I think that that is pretty crazy. So she went for the move h5. And this move, I mean, it's not like uncommon for black to go for these h5 ideas. I think it might be a little bit uncommon to do it like right now. Like a lot of times black does it after f4 has been made. But the idea is very simple. The idea is to go h5 and then go h4. And then you're just opening up this whole file. And now it's gonna get scary for white to castle on the king side. My mom's opponent went for queen d2. And the idea of this is, well, to now open up the path for the king to castle on the queen side. But also, I mean, a lot of times after like knight e7, castles, bishop h6 is like a very common move here. Just to, because, you know, if takes, there might be like some knight g5, and just to maybe create some attack on the king side. And also to protect maybe f4 a little bit more. So these are the ideas with queen d2. I mean, black doesn't, you know, a lot of times they don't go h4. I was just saying before that sometimes they might go h4. But now my mom went for knight d4, which was like, this is a very normal move. You're just centralizing your knight. And now if the queen goes somewhere random and loses the protection of the c2 pawn, then there's knight takes c2, and then we have a fork here, winning a rook. So knight d4, very logical to put your knight right in the center. And if white takes here, well then black is just going to get a great pawn structure. And white cannot really get rid of their dark squared bishop. This bishop is really important. I mean, if takes, then bishop h6 is just going to become absolutely amazing. Now, the opponent thought for 13 minutes. And after knight d4, there's also another like really big threat which needs to be talked about, which is the threat of bishop takes h3, bishop takes bishop, and then knight f3 check, winning a queen. White probably needs to do either knight g5 or knight g1. Knight g1 looks a little bit, you know, sad to just go back. So probably white needs to go for knight g5 and then reroute the knight to f3, or just stay on g5. I mean, now that the pawn is on h5, there isn't really any good way of kicking out this knight, as f6 is not a move black wants to do because this pawn on g6 becomes weak. In this position, there is a very big threat for black, and white was thinking for 13 minutes, and after these 13 minutes, white very calmly goes f3. And f3 does not solve the problem. After knight d4, there was this huge issue of bishop takes h3, bishop takes, and knight takes f3 check, winning the queen. And this move just does not solve the problem. Probably the reason was that white was scared of the move bishop g4, black going bishop g4, and entering in all of these light squares, bishop g4, bishop f3 might look scary. So probably that was a reason, which also is why knight g5 was a good move, because then after bishop g4, because then you can go f3 or something like that. So she went for f3 probably because of that reason. But then my mom just played bishop h3 after a minute of thinking, and the opponent just resigned because she just realized that she's just losing a piece. So guys, these sort of mistakes happen even at this level, even at 2100 level. The opponent must have gone some sort of, you know, just a blind spot, you know, like she just didn't see this. And this, I mean, this does happen to everyone, but of course my mom was very happy after this game. She won in like 40 minutes or something, and, you know, she took the first point for the Swedish team after winning in 9 moves. It's been a very long time since my mom won in 9 moves. I don't even know if I've ever won a classical game in 9 moves. So this was definitely a really big deal. And I mean, when I saw the result, like when I saw that the game had finished, I was like, did they draw? I couldn't understand that, like, you know, there had been a win so quickly. But yeah, guys, I hope that you enjoyed seeing this game. And there were a lot of people that were asking me in the comments, you know, how was my mom able to win so quickly? Well, here it is. It was a big blunder by the opponent. That was the reason she was able to win so quickly. But nonetheless, I think that this game still was a bit instructive in some ideas in the close Sicilian. And this h5, I think, surprised her opponent a lot, as it's not really played that often. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I will be back with the recaps when I, you know, play the Olympiad. We will see if I play tomorrow. I'm not really telling you in the videos because, you know, we want to surprise the opponent, the opposing team, so that they don't know the team beforehand. So, yeah, but I'll see you in the next recap, everybody. Hope that you're enjoying these videos, and like and subscribe if you are. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Way!